Hi, welcome back to me and Mon Ami. Now, over the last 18 months, we've put our little Citroen Ami through its paces. We've gone up hills and down mountains and up mountains and down dales and all of that. But what we've never actually got around to doing is an actual scientific assessment of how it performs on hills, of how it performs coming back down, of how much regeneration you get. And so today what we're going to do is employ some new technology, because we've been spending your coffee brass on some new tech, and what we've got is a GPS remote control for our 360-degree camera, which is on the roof. And so what I'm going to do is take you up some of the steepest hills in Villefranche, and using the on-screen telemetry, you will be able to see just how well or how badly a Citroen Ami performs on hills, and what sort of speed it does on different slopes, which hopefully, if you're thinking about getting one, will give you some idea about whether it may work or not for you. So this is our first section of hill, not the steepest bit, but it's a very windy bit. It's one where the Ami is great because of its size and because you can squeeze it into narrow passages and go around little hairpins like that. But it is a road in which occasionally we hold people up, because it's not somewhere you can overtake. And at present, we're going at about 15, 16, up to 20 kilometers an hour. So I'll try and put a few mile-per-hour conversions on the screen for you. And we're up to now 33. So I think you can see that on this section of road, it's not really causing many problems. But as we approach this next section, it may start to slow a little. And let's see. But once we get beyond this first hill test, you will begin to see how the car performs on a really super steep hill and a super long steep hill. Very tight bend here. Sometimes, if you're not careful, if it's wet, you can skid a little there. You can see the speed now down to about 28, 29 on the speedo here. It'll be interesting to see how it compares with the GPS reading. Hopefully it'll be pretty much the same. 32 up here, 32. And in terms of range, we started out with a full tank, and we're now, or a full battery should I say, we're now down to 69 kilometers of range remaining. This is a very awkward junction. You've got to have your wits about you on every level. But we're now going to go across this crazy junction and head up the steep bit. So here's where things get a lot tougher. This is into the heights of Villefranche. And not only is it narrow and two-way, but it's very steep in parts. To begin with, not too bad, doing 28, 29. Up here, which, given how narrow it is, I think is quite fast enough. 31, 32, 31 on the speedo. Interesting to compare it with the GPS. Down to 29, 30, 31. And now we're getting seriously steep. You can see that up ahead of you. The camera sometimes flattens out the hills, but down to 26, 25 on the speedo, 26. You can sort of feel it labouring. If you were anybody behind us, I think they'd be a bit peed off now. 24, 23. 24. It is only a 30 zone, to be fair, but we are under that. 28. Just when you thought it couldn't get any steeper, it does. I once cycled up here, never again. 22, 23, 24, 25, 24, 23, we're dropping now, 22. This is the toughest bit. I think this is something like 40%. 20, the slope, 20, 18, 17 on the speedo. We're almost stopping. 18. I mean, this is where if somebody was behind you, it does get a tad embarrassing. 17, 18. Really, this is super slow. I think you can probably tell. 18, still go on, Ellen, you can do it. I know you've retired, but you can still do one more hill. 19, 21, we've got through the toughest bit. Although this isn't so easy either, down to 20, 19, 19, 20, 20, 21, whoa, speeding up. 22, I hope you can see on the screen the slope here, just to give you some idea of what that gradient is. Anyway, that's through the stiffest bit, and we're back up to a sort of much more respectable 32. Bear in mind today is very hot, but the battery should be performing pretty normally, I think. If you were doing that in cold weather, you definitely, and when I say cold, I mean probably 5 degrees or less, certainly anything under freezing, that performance would be even slower. Hard to imagine, I know, but it would. And that gets us to the peak of that bit, but we're now going to cross over onto a long, relatively, well, yes, pretty steep, but very long climb to the peak, where we're then going to come back and see how the regeneration performs, because I'll let you know how much we've used and see whether we get back with without using any power, because I think you'll be quite surprised sometimes. The regeneration on this is pretty impressive, I think. So far we've used 61, we're down to 61 kilometers of range, so we've used 14 kilometers to get to here. So we're going to cross over onto the route de Grande Alpe, should I say. Very famous sort of cycling and rally route, this. It's quite misty. Sometimes up here you're in the clouds and we're not far off. So up this stretch we're at 36, not too bad. It's funny that sometimes when you're driving this on a long, relatively steep incline, that's when it seems slower. It's kind of the optical illusion. If you can see a long way ahead of you, you feel like you're going slow, whereas sometimes on an even steeper section, as long as it's narrow, it doesn't feel quite so bad. But it's the long, slow climbs that you feel it. 37 on this, you'll be able to see on the screen the incline, down to 60 of range. It is only a 30 road, this, so we're not we're doing what you ought to do, not that everybody else does, which is why they've got these speed bumps, which are monstrous. You really have to watch speed bumps with this vehicle. Down to 58 of range, so we've used 17. Again, long, slow climb. It feels slow. We're actually doing about 32 according to the speedo, but it is a 50 zone, this, so, you know, we're quite lucky at the minute. There's nobody behind us, but quite often up here there is, and they overtake if they can. Now heading into the clouds, I think. Indeed we are. Put your fog lights on. Oh, we haven't got any. Here we go, into the clouds. Somewhere down there is Es-sur-Mer. Just below us is Es-Village. That's how high up we are. We're above Es-Village. We're coming up to the Col d'Es, which is advertised on the sign at 500 meters above sea level. And you can see we're really going into the cloud now. Getting very near to our destination now. And then we're going to just turn round and come straight back and see just how much regeneration we get. In other words, compare how much power we use going back with how much we've used coming up, which will give you some idea of how far you can travel uphill as long as you come back the same route. We're down to 55 kilometres of range remaining. The mist's getting lower. We're getting very near the peak now, where we're going to turn around and we'll see how much range we've used. Just round this corner is where we're going to do a U-ey, providing we don't get lost in this fog. And you can see we're now going at a full tilt 45. This feels completely respectable, quite fast enough, and actually in this mist, quite a lot of fun. It really is quite fun. You feel a bit like you're in the Italian Job. The opening sequence, you know, where he goes into the tunnel and then ends up over the cliff. Just round this corner, we're gonna do a U-ey. Was the old Hermitage Hotel and the Prise-Denise charging point, and we have arrived here. If I can get over this side of the road, with 53 kilometres of range. So we have used 22 kilometres, which I think is about 13 miles of range. So that's what we've used. Let's now go back and see how much we use on the way back. We're going to take exactly the same route. So we're still at 51. These could be professional cyclists because they train up here. Cyclists are going down here. It's quite terrifying. They're certainly going far quicker than we are. I think these are the real Ineos boys. I might be wrong. Up to 52. So we're now gaining range rather than losing it. But we get to 53, back where we started as we cross over the Quatre Chemins, I think this is called. We're at 53, so we're back where we started. Good job they have little buses up here, isn't it? Little and electric. Take note, all the buses here, I think just about now are electric, even the giant ones. Off we go. So a little uphill section, we've dropped to 52 again. So we're 1 kilometre worse off than when we started. We're now downhill again. Got to be very careful on this road because it is two-way, unbelievably. I have to say, you know, this is the perfect sized vehicle for these little roads. It may be slow coming up, but it doesn't half fit going back down. It's now very steeply downhill for quite a long way. Still at 52. Now it gets super steep. 53, we've gone up to 53, so we're back where we started. We haven't used a single kilometre of range, a single mile of range, and we are approaching, I would say, 2/3 of the way back home. 54, we've now gone up to 54. So we have 1 kilometre more than we started with. Favourite junction at this time of year. Very busy. Multiple entry points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's crackers. That's the signal for us. Over we go down this little narrow road here. And you'll see how it gets even dafter on this corner, because these are the ones coming up, but they're split in 3 ways. You have this junction here, and then you have another one on this hill here, and we're going to attempt to go down here. This guy doesn't think we're coming down here, but we are. You can see just how narrow it is. So 54 kilometres of range, we're still up 1, and we're into the last section. 55, we've just gone up to 55 kilometres of range, so we're 2 ahead of where we started. So my guess is, even with a little bit of level right at the end, we may well end up around the same amount of range we left the top of that hill in, which would be an amazing result, but let's see. Another one of the great Villefranche junctions. You used to actually drive up there, unbelievably. They very recently decided it wasn't a good idea. pedestrianised it. People used to get so stuck. Here we go. I love this little electric van. It's always parked here. So where are we at? 55 still. So we're 2 kilometres of range up, and we're getting very near to home now. So the result is approaching. 55 remaining. Can we get home with more than we started with? Well, more than we started with from the top of the hill. So 55, we're 2 up on where we started, and we are within spitting distance of home. 55, surely we're going to drop to 54 on this section. Still at 55, still at 55, still at 55. We're going to turn, drop down the hill. If we get across here in one piece. There we go. Here we go. Down the hill, 55. And, well, I can't see us using any power going down here. So I think this is going to be the result, but let's see. In we come behind Mr. Boo's electric scooter Camilla, and there is the result, 55. So basically, coming back, we gained 2 kilometres. Going, we used 22, 13 point something miles. Coming back, we gained 2 kilometres. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give us a like, please give us a comment, and remember everyone, stay charged. Bye.